The storm howled like a living thing. Snow slammed against the windows of the small countryside clinic, rattling the glass as if demanding to be let inside. The lights flickered. The generator hummed with a worrying pulse, and in a dimly lit room that smelled of antiseptic and cold winter air, a young mother was slipping away. Maria Bennett's breaths came thin and shallow, her skin pale as paper. Sweat glistened on her forehead despite the freezing air drifting through the vents. She clutched the sides of the bed, eyes half closed, fighting a battle she was losing with every passing second. Her baby was coming, but her strength was gone. Nurses whispered frantically. A tray of instruments clattered to the floor. The doctor murmured to himself as he studied the monitors, his jaw tightening with dread. Outside in the hallway, a child wept. 6-year-old Liam clung to the shaggy fur of Rex, the old German shepherd who refused to leave the clinic door. The dog paced in tight circles, ears pinned back, hackles quivering, not in aggression but in fear. A kind of fear only a creature who has seen too much understands. Then everything changed. A crash, a cry, and suddenly the aging German shepherd burst through the doors with a force no one thought he still possessed. Nurses shouted. The doctor turned sharply. And Maria's fatting eyes fluttered open, just as Rex placed his paw on her wrist. What followed would touch millions. But in that room, in that storm, it began as one small act of courage from a dog who sensed a soul slipping away. If you value stories crafted with love and effort, please consider subscribing. It truly motivates me to keep creating these for you. Long before the night of the storm, before the panic and the flashing monitors and the desperate fight for life inside that countryside clinic, Maria Bennett lived a quiet rhythm that could make anyone believe in simple goodness. Her days began with the soft chime of her alarm clock and the glow of early morning light filtering through thin cotton curtains. She would slip from bed, brush her hair into a messy bun, and tiptoe down the wooden staircase of her small farmhouse so she wouldn't wake Liam too early. The house always creaked in protest. Old, lived in, loved, but she had grown to find comfort in its familiar complaints. On most mornings, she prepared oatmeal with cinnamon because Liam said it tasted like warm Christmas. And almost every morning, she would open the back door to find Rex already waiting on the porch. The old German shepherd had developed a habit. He'd shuffle from Mr. Donovan's former home down the dirt path, stop outside Maria's gate, and sit patiently until she opened the door. "Good morning, brave boy," she would whisper, rubbing his ears as he leaned gently into her hands. Liam adored him. To Liam, Rex wasn't just a dog, he was a guardian, a hero, a confidant. The kind of presence a child feels safe with instantly. When Liam's father died in the car accident 2 years earlier, it was Rex who first nudged his small hand, who curled beside him on the porch during the boy's long nights awake with nightmares. Maria had never said it aloud, but she believed Liam's healing began the day Rex chose them. Their neighborhood, more a collection of scattered houses than an actual community, had changed after Mr. Donovan passed. The veteran had been respected by everyone, and his service dog had been part of the town's heartbeat for years. When he died, people quietly worried about Rex's future. But the German shepherd had solved the problem himself. He simply moved on, or rather, he moved to them. He followed Liam to school. He guarded the yard. He greeted Maria after work as if she'd been gone for years. He became theirs without needing to belong to anyone else. And so, their little family of two became a family of three. One human child, one mother trying her best, and an aging dog with a soldier's discipline and a healer's heart. But behind the smiles and warm routines, Maria was carrying a heavy burden. She was pregnant again, a blessing she welcomed but not without fear. Her days grew harder, fatigue that left her trembling, nausea that arrived in waves, aches that wouldn't quiet down. Some days she caught her breath against the kitchen counter, pressing a hand to her swelling belly. She hid those moments from Liam. She hid them from her coworkers. She even hid them from herself. Because Maria had learned, after losing her husband, that survival sometimes meant pretending to be stronger than you felt. But Rex noticed. Animals always do. Whenever she slowed down or pressed a hand to her abdomen, Rex's ears would twitch. He would walk closer. If she sat on the couch, he sat beside her, placing his head gently on her lap. If she paused at the sink too long, he nudged her hip with his nose. It was as if he sensed something wasn't right. Still, Maria kept moving forward as mothers always do. She worked at the local elementary school, teaching third graders how to spell, how to read, how to understand the world. Her gentle voice made even the most restless child settle. Her smile softened even the worst days. But she was tired, deeply tired. Sometimes, while writing lesson plans at night, her eyes would droop and her hands would shake. She felt a pressure low in her abdomen that she dismissed as normal pregnancy discomfort. More ominous signs came, the kind that would make a doctor's eyes narrow with concern. But Maria, stubborn and loving, brushed them aside. "It's just stress," she whispered to herself. "Just one more month, one more week, and one more day." Rex, however, became restless. He followed her like a shadow. He slept on the rug beside her bed. He began to whine at odd hours of the night, packing, packing, packing. Liam noticed one evening, as he sat drawing superheroes at the kitchen table. "Mom," he asked softly, "why does Rex keep watching you like he's worried?" Maria froze for a moment. She had been stirring a pot of soup, but her hand stopped. She forced a smile. "He's just getting old, sweetie. Old dogs get a little anxious." But Liam wasn't convinced. He placed his small hand on Rex's back, and the dog looked up at him with troubled amber eyes. Maybe if life had given them more time, if the winter storms had not arrived early, if the complications had been gentler, if her body had held steady, the tragedy of that night might not have happened. But life rarely waits for convenient timing. And the days before the storm grew heavier. Maria's walks became slower. She sometimes gripped the wall when she thought no one was looking. When she laughed, her voice sounded thinner. When she tucked Liam into bed, her hands trembled so slightly she hoped he hadn't noticed. Rex did. He always did. On the morning of the storm, Maria woke with a pain so sharp it stole her breath. She clutched the sheets, gasping softly. Her heart raced. She knew instantly, instinctively, that something was wrong. But there was breakfast to make. There was Liam to dress. There was life to push through. She walked downstairs, her hand trailing along the wall for balance. The wind rattled the window panes. The sky looked bruised and heavy. The news warned of the strongest blizzard of the year. And yet Maria whispered to herself, "Just get through today." Rex watched her closely, too closely. His ears were stiff, his posture tense. When she finally clutched her belly and sank into the kitchen chair, the dog barked sharply, startling both mother and child. It was the first bark of warning. The first sign that the night ahead would become a chapter in their lives none of them would ever forget. Before I continue, what would you have done in this moment? I'd love to hear your thoughts. The storm had not yet reached its full fury when Maria decided she needed to get to the clinic. The pain had become sharp enough to make her double over. Her breaths came in quick, shallow bursts. She leaned against the cold kitchen counter, fingers trembling as she tried to steady herself. The overhead light flickered, humming softly, casting long shadows across the room. "Mom," Liam's voice wavered with a fear he wasn't used to feeling. Maria looked up and forced a shaky smile. "I'm okay, sweetheart. I think the baby wants to come a little early." The words sent a shockwave through the small farmhouse. But Rex reacted first. His paws clicked anxiously across the floor as he moved to her side, nuzzling her arm insistently. His ears twitched. His breathing quickened. The dog planted himself in front of her as if to block her from falling or to keep danger at bay. Maria lowered herself carefully into a chair, the pain pulsing like a warning bell. She reached for her phone to call the clinic. The line crackled with static from the worsening storm, but the nurse on duty recognized her voice immediately. "Maria, you sound weak. Is the baby coming?" "Yes," she whispered, squeezing her eyes shut, "and something feels wrong." "We'll prepare a room right away," the nurse said, "but the storm is moving in fast. Come now, don't wait." Maria hung up. She hadn't wanted to scare Liam, but there was no hiding anything now. "Go get your boots, honey," she said softly. "We need to leave." Liam sprang into motion, tears forming but unshed. He grabbed his coat and backpack and then turned to Rex. "Come on, boy," he whispered. "We need you." And Rex followed, of course he did. Where Liam went, he went. Where danger hovered, he positioned himself between his humans and the world. The drive to the clinic felt like a battle against nature itself. Snowflakes smacked against the windshield like shards of ice. Wind gusts pushed the small car sideways. The wipers struggled to keep up. The sky looked like a swirling blanket of gray, heavy and hostile. Maria gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles turned white. Sweat beaded on her brow despite the cold air blasting from the vents. Another sharp pain hit. She bit her lip so she wouldn't cry out. "Mom, are you okay?" Liam's voice quivered from the back seat, where he held tightly onto Rex's fur. "I'm fine," Maria lied softly. "We're almost there." Rex let out a low whine, his eyes fixed on her through the rearview mirror. It was the same look he used to give Mr. Donovan, the look that meant, "I know you're in danger. Tell me what to do." Maria ignored the tears threatening to slip down her cheeks. She couldn't break now, not in front of her son. A gust of wind slammed into the car, jolting them. "Mom." "I'm okay," she said again, though her hands shook violently. The pain grew, the road blurred, her vision swam in and out. But she kept driving. Her baby needed her son needed her, she could not fail them. It felt like hours, though it was only 20 minutes, when the clinic lights finally appeared through the fog of snow. A small, humble building, barely visible through the swirling white. By the time she parked, Maria was drenched in cold sweat. She tried to step out of the car, but her legs buckled. Nurses rushed outside with blankets. "I can walk," she whispered, but she couldn't. Her body was betraying her. They carried her inside. Liam ran after them, Rex right behind him, barking once, loud and sharp, as if calling for the whole world to pay attention. Inside the clinic, the warmth felt overwhelming. The air smelled of disinfectant. The floors glistened under harsh fluorescent lights. A distant heartbeat monitor beeped steadily, almost too calm for the chaos that hovered beneath the surface. They placed Maria onto a hospital bed. Her breathing was shallow, her skin was cold. The doctor, a calm but weary man named Dr. Halvorson, entered with a focused expression. "Maria," he said gently, "you're losing too much blood. We need to get the baby out soon." Maria swallowed hard. Is my baby okay?" "For now," he replied, "but you need to push, and you need strength. Do you understand?" She nodded weakly, though she barely felt her own body anymore. Liam stood near the foot of the bed, trembling. Rex sat beside him, tail still, eyes locked on Maria. Every few seconds the dog's head tilted, ears twitching in alarm. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. As the contractions intensified, Maria's vision flickered like a dying candle. She heard voices, nurses, monitors, the doctor, but they all sounded distant, muffled, underwater. She tried to push. She tried again. Her body shook with the effort, but nothing good came of it. She gasped for breath, her chest tight. Fear pooled in her stomach. The doctor frowned. "Her pressure is dropping, she's fatting." "No," Maria whispered. "Not yet, not yet." The room blurred. She felt herself drifting backward, like sinking into cold water. Then Liam cried out, "Mom, don't go." His voice pierced through the fog, pulling her attention just enough to keep her tethered to the moment. Rex stood abruptly, his tail lowered, his eyes narrowed. The dog paced a step forward, then another, barking sharply in Maria's direction. The nurse tried to block him, but the dog whined loudly, flattening his ears, packing in anxious circles. He pawed at the ground, then at the door, then at the side of Maria's bed. He couldn't sit still. Something was calling to him, some instinct, some memory, some echo of his years as a service dog. The same instinct that used to tell him when Mr. Donovan's heart was failing, when his blood pressure dropped, when the veteran was slipping away. Rex recognized the signs. He had felt this before, and he knew exactly what they meant. The storm raged outside. Inside, Maria's heartbeat weakened. Her body trembled from exhaustion. The doctor wiped sweat from his forehead. "Maria, I need you to push again." "I can't," she breathed. "I don't have any strength left." Her eyelids fluttered. Her hands fell limp. And yet, amidst the panic, something else was beginning to stir. A seed of kindness, one planted long before this moment, was quietly taking root. Because in the hallway, huddled near the clinic door, Liam knelt beside Rex with a breaking heart. The boy wrapped his arms around the dog's neck, burying his face in Rex's fur. "Rex, please, please help my mom." The dog stilled. His ears twitched. His eyes softened, like something inside him understood the plea not as a command, but as a calling. A calling bigger than himself. A calling he had once answered for a different man, one who had leaned on him through pain, fear, and fatting heartbeats. Rex pressed his forehead against Liam's chest, breathing slowly, as if telling the boy, "I hear you, I'm here, I won't let her go." And with that the dog rose, steady, confident, purposeful, taking slow steps toward the room where Maria fought for her life. The first act of kindness had already begun. Be honest, how would you react if this happened to you? Tell me in the comments. The wind outside screamed against the clinic walls, but inside the small delivery room, the world grew terrifyingly quiet. Too quiet. Maria's breaths were shallow and uneven. Her lips had turned pale. Her eyelashes fluttered like she was fighting sleep, dangerous, consuming sleep. The monitors beeped in restless patterns, warning of a body that was losing its battle. Dr. Halvorsen exchanged a grim look with the nurse beside him. "She's slipping," he murmured under his breath. "If she loses consciousness, we'll lose both of them." The nurse swallowed hard, turning toward Maria. "Ma'am, please, you have to stay awake." But Maria barely heard them. The room around her wavered like a mirage. Her thoughts drifted through memories. Her husband laughing as he tossed Liam into the air, their first small apartment, the baby clothes packed neatly in her dresser at home, and then darkness, thick and heavy, pulled at her again. She tried to lift her head. She couldn't. She tried to keep her eyes open. She couldn't. Her strength was leaking out of her like water, slipping through cupped hands. And then, in the midst of her fatting consciousness, she heard a small, cracking voice. "Mom, don't leave me." Liam. Her son. Her boy. The voice pierced her chest with a sharper pain than any contraction. She forced her eyes open, just barely enough to see him standing at the doorway, tears streaming down his cheeks, Rex pressed against his side like a furry shield. "Mom," Liam sobbed, "please, you can't go. Rex says you can't go." Maria's vision blurred. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "I'm trying." But the truth was suffocating. She wasn't sure she could. The moment Liam's voice cracked through the room, Rex made his choice. The old German shepherd stepped away from the boy and lowered his head like a soldier preparing for duty. His paws moved with deliberate purpose. 1, 2, 3 steps forward. A nurse noticed and rushed to block him. "Hey, no, boy, stay out." But Rex let out a low, warning growl, not aggressive but frightening enough to make the nurse freeze. His eyes weren't wild. They weren't confused. They were focused, determined, as if he understood the stakes better than any of them. "Wait," Dr. Halvorson said sharply, raising his hand. "Don't stop him." The nurses looked stunned. The doctor softened his voice. "I've seen this dog with his previous owner. He senses danger. He senses pain. He might help her stay grounded." And so they stepped aside. No one breathed. Rex approached the bed slowly, his tail still, his head lowered with reverence, as if approaching someone sacred. His nails clicked softly against the linoleum floor. His breath came out in slow, steady puffs. He reached the side of the bed. Maria's arm dangled weakly over the side, limp and cold. Rex nudged it gently, once, twice, and then lifted his paw, old, scarred, trembling slightly, and placed it carefully on her wrist. Something stirred in the room. The monitors continued beeping, but the rhythm changed, subtly but unmistakably. Maria's heart rate flickered, her eyelids fluttered, her fingers twitched under Rex's paw. "Maria," the doctor urged immediately, stepping closer, "stay with us. Can you hear me? Stay with us." Rex leaned in further, pressing his forehead against her arm, letting out a soft, deep whine that vibrated through her bones. Somewhere deep inside her fading consciousness, Maria recognized that sound. She had heard it before on nights when she cried quietly in the kitchen, thinking no one knew. She had heard it when Rex comforted Liam during nightmares. She had heard it whenever the dog sensed someone he loved was hurting too deeply to speak. It was a sound of loyalty, of love, of refusal to let go. Maria gasped softly, a weak, fleeting breath, but it was enough. The doctor exhaled in relief. "Good, good, stay awake, don't drift." But life wasn't done testing her. Another contraction surged through her body like a crashing wave. Her entire form arched with the pain. Her hands scrambled for something, anything, to hold on to. She clutched the bed rail with one hand. The other closed weakly over Rex's paw. Her eyes met his. A silent exchange passed between them, something raw and ancient. "Help me, I'm here." The storm intensified outside, rattling the building. Inside, the tension thickened. The nurses moved quickly, preparing instruments, adjusting IV lines, wiping sweat from Maria's brow. Liam stood just inside the doorway, clutching the frame as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. His small shoulders shook. His cheeks glistened. A nurse moved to guide him back out, but Rex turned his head sharply and stared hard. The message was clear: let the boy stay. No one argued with him. Liam didn't move from his spot. His eyes stayed glued to his mother, as if willing her to stay alive through sheer love. "Mom," he whispered, his voice breaking, "you promised. You said I would meet my baby sister. You promised." Maria's heart clenched painfully. Her lips trembled. I want to keep that promise," she whispered. "I do." But her strength was fading again. Her breaths grew uneven. Her fingers lost their grip on the bed rail. Her head turned weakly to the side. "Maria," Dr. Halvorson snapped, urgency tightening his voice, "if you don't push now, the baby's oxygen levels will drop. You are the only one who can save your child." Tears leaked from Maria's eyes. I don't think I can." Rex let out another soft whine. But this one was different. Not sorrow, not fear. Encouragement. Almost insistence. He nudged her arm again, stepping closer, placing more weight on his paw pressed against her wrist. His chest rose and fell with deep, deliberate breaths, slow, steady, grounding breaths. He was trying to guide her. He was trying to anchor her. He was trying to give her his strength. And then something broke inside Maria. A dam she had built over months of fear, exhaustion, grief, loneliness, finally cracked open. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she whispered, "I can't do this alone." Liam took a trembling step forward. "You're not alone, Mom. Rex is here, I'm here, we're right here." The words pierced her heart. A sob escaped her lips. All her life, she had carried the weight of being strong for everyone else. But now, she let herself lean on the two beings who loved her most. Her son, and the dog who refused to let her slip into darkness. Maria squeezed Rex's paw, her voice cracked. "Okay, okay, I'll try again." The doctor nodded quickly. "Good, Maria, I need one big push, just one." The contraction built like a tidal wave. Maria screamed into the air, into the storm, into the fate that tried to take her. Her body convulsed with effort. Her heart pounded. Her vision blurred with stars. She pushed, and pushed, and pushed again. Her strength waned. Her breath shattered. She nearly collapsed. But every time she faltered, Rex pressed closer, paw firm on her wrist, forehead against her arm, breath slow and steady, as if saying, "Keep going for him, for her, for yourself." The doctor leaned in. "Yes, Maria, yes, the baby's almost here, one more push." She shook, sobbing, "I can't." "Yes, you can," Liam cried out. "Mom, you can, please." Her heart split open. Her love surged. And with one final, desperate surge of will, Maria gripped the rails, clenched her teeth, and screamed as she gave the strongest push of her life. And then, a piercing cry filled the room. A newborn's cry. A miracle's cry. The world seemed to stop. Even the storm outside fell silent for a moment, as if honoring the life that had just entered the world. Maria collapsed back against the pillows, gasping, trembling, tears flowing freely. The doctor held up a tiny, wailing baby girl. "She's here," he whispered. "She's safe." Maria sobbed in relief. Rex whined softly, stepping closer. Liam covered his mouth with his hands, crying openly. But the most powerful moment was yet to come. The nurse placed the baby in Maria's arms. Maria looked down at her daughter, red-faced, crying, alive, and whispered, you're here, thank God." Then she looked at Rex, and with a trembling smile she whispered, "Thank you." Rex stepped forward and gently nuzzled the newborn's blanket, welcoming her as if she were part of his duty, part of his family, part of his heart. In that moment, everyone in the room felt it. Kindness had saved them. Love had saved them. A dog's loyalty had saved them. And the emotional tide of the night was far from over. For a few precious seconds, the room held its breath. The baby's cries echoed softly, raw and new. Maria lay trembling, tears slipping down her cheeks, holding her daughter as though she were made of fragile starlight. The nurses blinked rapidly, trying not to cry. Even Dr. Halvorson's normally stoic expression cracked into something warm, relieved, and quietly awed. But in the middle of all this emotion, one figure remained absolutely still. Rex. The old German shepherd didn't move, didn't bark, didn't shift. He stood like a guardian carved from something ancient and noble. His amber eyes were locked onto Maria and the tiny bundle in her arms. The storm still pounded the walls outside, but inside this room, something sacred had taken place, and everyone felt it. Rex stepped closer, one careful paw at a time, as though approaching royalty. Maria lifted her exhausted eyes to him, her voice barely audible. "Come here, boy." Rex obeyed instantly. He reached the bed, then lifted his head to the baby again. His breath warmed the edge of the blanket. His nose brushed the fabric with a reverence that no one expected from a dog, yet felt somehow completely natural for him. A hushed silence filled the room. Then the baby hiccuped. Rex's ears perked. And as the infant's cry softened into tiny whimpers, Rex lowered his head beside her, letting the blanket touch his muzzle, as if offering her a greeting. A welcome. A blessing. A promise. Maria let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "Rex, she's meeting you first." That moment, captured by the nurse's trembling hands, would soon circle the world. But in that quiet clinic, no one thought about cameras or future headlines. They were witnessing something pure, something rare, a turning point in the lives of everyone present. But the moment wasn't entirely peaceful. Maria's breathing stuttered. Not dangerously, but enough to draw Dr. Havorson's attention. He approached the bed quickly. "Maria, I need to check your vitals. Giving birth has taken a toll." She nodded weakly and handed her daughter to a nurse, but Rex stiffened the moment the baby left Maria's arms. His tail dropped slightly, and he let out a low rumble, not threatening but protective. The nurse paused, unsure. Maria reached out and touched Rex's head. "It's okay," she whispered. "They're helping." Rex relaxed again, though his eyes stayed vigilant, tracking everyone's movements like a seasoned medic. The doctor checked her pulse, then her blood pressure. His brow furrowed. "You're stable but exhausted. We need to monitor you closely." Maria nodded again, closing her eyes. "I'm so tired." Rex responded by placing his paw gently on her hand, this time on purpose, not instinct, as if telling her, "Rest, you're safe now." The doctor, who had seen countless emergencies, watched the exchange with quiet amazement. "This dog," he murmured, "is extraordinary." A nurse added softly, "It's like he knows what she needs." Liam, still gripping the doorframe with both hands, stepped forward hesitantly. Can I come in now?" Maria looked up, her voice breaking. "Yes, baby, come here." He ran to her, tears spilling openly as he hugged her carefully, mindful of the wires and tubes. "You scare me so much," he whispered. "I know," she breathed. "I'm sorry." The boy turned to Rex next and wrapped his arms around the dog's neck. "You saved her," he choked out. "You saved my mom." Rex leaned into him, letting the child cling, accepting the gratitude with the calm dignity of an old soldier who never sought medals. But life isn't done surprising people, not even in the gentlest ways. As the nurses cleaned the newborn, swaddling her in a warm blanket, the baby stopped crying and began to wiggle. Her eyes opened for the first time, tiny, dark, curious. And the first thing she saw, not the doctor, not the nurse, not even her mother. She saw Rex, sitting tall beside the bed, ears perked, gaze soft and protective. The baby blinked. Rex tilted his head. The room held its breath again as the newborn, not even 10 minutes old, reached one small hand toward the dog. Her fingers brushed his fur. Rex froze. Then slowly, so gently it made a nurse gasp, he lowered his head and allowed her tiny hand to rest between his ears. Maria covered her mouth, sobbing. She likes him." "She trusts him," a nurse whispered. "No," Dr. Havorson corrected quietly. "She recognizes him." Everyone looked at him. The doctor nodded at Rex. "This dog didn't just help her live, he helped bring her here." He turned back to Maria, "And I've never seen anything like it." Outside, the storm roared louder, rattling the clinic windows. But inside, warmth spread through the room like an invisible fire, a warmth born not from heaters or blankets but from something far more powerful. A shared moment of impossible connection. The doctor stepped back and spoke gently. "Maria, there's something you need to know." She looked at him, still cradling her daughter. "You lost a lot of blood tonight, more than we're comfortable with." Maria's face tightened with worry. "But," the doctor continued, "that moment when you regained your strength, when you pushed through, something happened. Your vitals stabilized just enough for the baby to survive the final minutes." He glanced at Rex. "I don't know how to medically explain it, but it coincided precisely with when he touched you." Everyone turned to the dog. Rex simply sat there, calm and steady, unaware that he had just been credited with saving 2 lives. The doctor smiled. It seems this old boy gave you exactly what you needed at the exact moment you needed it. Maria closed her eyes in gratitude, tears dripping onto her daughter's blanket. I felt it, she whispered. When he touched me, something came back. I don't know what it was, but I felt like I could fight again. She reached down and stroked Rex's fur. You gave me my child, she whispered. Rex pressed his nose against her arm, eyes soft. The storm continued through the night, trapping everyone in the clinic. The power flickered but never fully went out. Nurses dozed in chairs. The doctor made rounds with tired eyes. Liam slept curled against Maria's side. And Rex did not sleep. He sat vigil. All night. Watching the baby. Watching Maria. Listening for the storm. Listening for danger. Like the guardian he once was, and the guardian he had become again. By dawn, the snow had stopped. The storm had broken. Light filtered through the clinic windows, touching the room in soft gold. A new day. A new life. A new bond that would never, ever be broken. If someone showed you this level of kindness, what would you say to them? Morning broke with a fragile kind of quiet, the kind that only follows a night of fear and miracles. Snow blanketed the countryside like a soft shroud. The trees bowed under its weight. The clinic's windows glowed faintly with the pale gold of sunrise, the light drifting into the delivery room where Maria slept with her newborn nestled against her chest. But she wasn't alone. Rex lay on the floor beside the bed, his head resting between his paws, eyes half open but always watchful. Throughout the night he had barely moved. He had refused water. He hadn't eaten. His mission, whatever instinctual drive had pulled him into that room, wasn't finished yet. He watched. He listened. He breathed slowly, matching his rhythm to Maria, as if anchoring her to the world. By the time Liam stirred awake in the chair beside her, rubbing sleep from his eyes, the first beams of sunlight touched Rex's fur, highlighting patches of gray around his muzzle, the unmistakable signs of age. But to Liam, his hero looked eternal. The boy slid off the chair and knelt beside him, wrapping his arms around Rex's neck. The dog lifted his head slightly, leaning into the boy's touch with a tired sigh. "You didn't sleep, did you?" Liam whispered. Rex blinked slowly as if trying to say, "Not until you're all safe." Maria stirred at the sound of their voices, her eyes fluttering open. She looked down at the tiny bundle in her arms, still asleep, her lips parted in soft breaths. Then she looked at Rex, and the weight of everything that had happened crashed into her like a tidal wave. "Good morning," she whispered, voice trembling. "My brave boy." Rex's tail thumped once, slow, reverent, purposeful. Dr. Havorson entered quietly, clipboard in hand. But the moment he saw Maria awake and alert, his face softened with genuine relief. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "Tired, sore." She paused, then added, voice thick with emotion, "grateful." He nodded. "Your vitals look promising, but you need rest. You came very, very close to." His voice trailed off, unwilling to say the word. Maria knew anyway. She pressed her cheek against her daughter's head. "I know." The doctor crouched and looked at Rex. "You were extraordinary last night." Rex blinked at him. "It's almost as if," the doctor added, "he remembered being trained for this kind of moment." Maria looked puzzled. So the doctor explained softly, "Mr. Donovan once told me that Rex was more than just a service dog. During his deployments, Rex alerted medics during cardiac failures, low oxygen events, and trauma incidents. He saved more than one soldier's life." Maria's lips parted. "Rex saved people before." "Yes," Dr. Havorson said, "many times." Maria's eyes filled again. "Then I guess he just saved one more." Rex looked up at her, a low rumble, almost like a purr of contentment, vibrating in his chest. But then something unexpected happened. A soft chime from the nurse's phone echoed through the room. She glanced at it and gasped. "Oh my goodness," her eyes widened. "Maria, you need to see this." The nurse turned the screen toward her. It was the photo she had taken the night before, the moment Rex had placed his paw on Maria's wrist as she fought for her life. The photo of Rex nudging the newborn's blanket. The photo had been posted online. And overnight, during the storm, while everyone in this room had fought their own battles, it had gone viral. Thousands of comments, millions of views, news outlets sharing it, people across the world crying over it. A dog giving a dying mother the will to live. Maria's hand flew to her mouth. No, I didn't. I didn't want anyone to see me like that." The nurse put a hand on her shoulder. "They're not looking at you with pity. They're looking at Rex with awe, and at you with admiration. They're seeing a story about love, about bravery, about survival." Maria swallowed hard. Liam leaned closer to the screen, eyes sparkling. "Mom, Rex is famous." Rex simply tilted his head, unaware of his newfound global stardom. A knock sounded at the door. The clinic receptionist peeked in, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Maria, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a crowd forming outside." "A crowd," Maria echoed. "People from town, reporters from the next city. They want to know if they can meet the dog." Maria blinked in disbelief. The storm just ended. How did they get here so fast? The receptionist shrugged helplessly. "No idea, but they're here, and some of them are crying." Maria looked at Rex, then at her sleeping baby, then at her son. This was not the climax she expected, but it was one the world seemed to need. A few minutes later, after ensuring the baby was safe in the nurse's arms, Maria allowed herself to be wheeled to the front entrance. When the doors opened, the cold morning air hit her face. Camera crews stood with steaming breaths clouding in the air. Locals from town huddled in their coats, eyes wide with sympathy. Strangers held homemade signs. One read, "Rex the hero." Another, "Thank you for saving them." Another, in a child's handwriting, "Dogs are angels." Maria felt tears gather at the corners of her eyes. And then the crowd parted. A little girl about 7 years old stepped forward. She wore mismatched gloves and a pink hat too big for her head. Her eyes were red from crying. She knelt in the snow and held out a crumpled piece of paper. "For Rex," she whispered. Rex approached slowly, his breath fogging the air, and sniffed the paper. It was a drawing of him, standing tall beside a mother and baby, with a son drawn overhead and scribbled text. "You saved a family." Maria's heart cracked open. She covered her mouth as sobs shook her body. The little girl cried too. People around them wiped their eyes. And in the center of it all stood Rex, unbothered by cameras, unaffected by fame, his only concern the woman who had nearly slipped away the night before. He pressed his nose to Maria's knee, anchoring her again. The world simply watched. Watched a dog show the kind of love that humans spend lifetimes searching for. Snowflakes drifted lazily from the sky as the morning crowd slowly dispersed, leaving behind a soft hush that settled over the clinic's entrance. Maria sat bundled in a thick blanket on her wheelchair, her newborn now sleeping peacefully in her arms. Liam stood beside her, one hand on the blanket, the other resting protectively on Rex's back. The old German shepherd sat tall, not proud, just quietly present, the way only deeply loyal creatures know how to be. Inside the clinic, warmth returned. Nurses resumed their duties. The doctor made rounds. But something had changed, something subtle yet profound. People spoke softer, smiled more easily, held the door open for each other. A strange, beautiful unity lingered in the air, born from the events of the night before. When Maria was brought back into her room, the first thing she noticed was an envelope on her bedside table. Her name was written on it in uneven handwriting. Liam noticed her looking. "Oh, Mrs. Clara came by. She said it was from the neighborhood. Maria opened it gently. Inside was a handwritten letter. To Maria and her little miracles, you are not alone. We're here. Whatever you need, thank Rex for showing us what love really looks like. Below the message were dozens of signatures. Neighbors, townspeople, teachers, grocery clerks, even people she barely knew. Maria's eyes filled and she pressed the letter to her chest. I didn't realize so many people cared. Liam leaned his head on her shoulder. They always cared, Mom. Maybe they just needed something, someone, to remind them. Rex exhaled softly, as if acknowledging the truth in the boy's words. The next few days passed gently. Maria rested. The baby, whom she named Hope, for reasons that needed no explanation, grew stronger. Liam spent hours reading picture books to Rex on the clinic floor, while nurses slipped him biscuits and leftovers from the staff kitchen. Word continued to spread online. Messages of love arrived from around the world. Offers to adopt Rex were politely but firmly declined by both Maria and Liam. Rex was family, and there was no question he belonged with them. One afternoon, as Maria held Hope near the window, watching sunlight sparkle across the snow, Dr. Halvorson entered with a clipboard tucked under his arm. "How's our miracle mother today?" he asked warmly. "Tired," she admitted, "but good tired." He stepped closer and tapped her chart lightly. "Your strength is returning. Your recovery is remarkable, especially considering how close you were." Maria looked down at her daughter. "I know why I'm still here." Dr. Halvorson followed her gaze and smiled knowingly. "I think everyone else does too." Rex, hearing his name even without it being spoken, lifted his head from the floor and trotted to her side, resting his chin gently on the edge of her bed. "Good boy," Maria whispered, stroking the gray around his muzzle. "You saved us." The doctor hesitated, then said something that surprised her. "You know, it's common for service dogs, especially those trained for trauma situations, to sense when someone's life is slipping. They're drawn to that kind of moment." He paused. "But what Rex did wasn't just instinct. That was love." Maria's throat tightened. "Yes," she whispered, "it was." A week later, Maria was finally cleared to go home. The air outside was crisp, the snow melting into small rivulets along the sidewalk. Neighbors stood by their fences waving. Some brought flowers. Others brought handmade blankets for the baby. Liam ran ahead, laughing, the first true laughter Maria had heard from him in months. Rex walked beside her wheelchair like a guardian, steady and sure. Their little house wasn't grand. Paint chipped on the shutters. The porch creaked underfoot. But when Maria crossed the threshold, carrying Hope in her arms, she felt for the first time since her husband's death that she was truly home. Not just physically, emotionally, spiritually, completely. Inside, the warmth was immediate. Friends had cleaned the house, stocked the freezer, folded laundry, and left a basket of baby supplies on the table with a card that read, "A community is just a family you didn't know you had." Maria sank into the couch, tears spilling freely. Liam sat beside her, hugging her gently. "Mom," he said softly, "I think Dad would be really proud of us." Maria pulled him close. "I think so too, sweetheart." Rex climbed onto the rug in front of them, settling with a heavy sigh. His body was aging, slowing, but his spirit seemed brighter than ever, as if saving this family had given him a new purpose. Maria reached down and brushed her fingers through his fur. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Rex closed his eyes in quiet contentment. That night, after the children were asleep, Maria sat alone in the softly lit living room. Hope's tiny breaths echoed faintly through the baby monitor. The wind tapped gently against the windows, no longer a storm, just a whisper. She picked up a small notebook and began to write, not for the world, not for the internet, but for herself. Some miracles do not fall from the sky. Some walk on four paws. Sometimes, kindness is not grand or loud. Sometimes it is the quiet presence of someone unwilling to leave our side. She paused, then added, and sometimes love lives on in the most unexpected ways. She closed the notebook and looked at Rex sleeping peacefully at her feet. A dog who had once saved strangers on distant battlefields. A dog who had once comforted a grieving old veteran. A dog who had now saved a mother and brought a new life safely into the world. A dog who had given a family a second chance. Maria whispered, "You're our guardian, Rex, always." And in the stillness of that warm little home, where grief once lingered and fear had nearly won, a deep peace settled. A peace built on love, on kindness, on courage, and on the unwavering loyalty of an old German shepherd who simply refused to let a mother die alone. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts below. Your support means more than you know.